Hello, Chelsea Walker here from Biology 1312 at the University of Houston downtown campus. My subject today is pollution and acid deposition. Ecosystem. The ecosystem most commonly involved with acid deposition is the aquatic one. This includes lakes, streams, oceans, and rivers. But as well as these, there are other surrounding factors affected by acid deposition, including the ecosystems which involve trees and forests. Some abiotic and biotic organisms that are included in the aquatic ecosystem are listed below. Abiotic includes rocks, water, air, soil, and temperature. On the biotic side, we have fish, humans, trees, insects, birds, and plants. The most common species affected in the aquatic ecosystem by acid deposition are fish, as well as some insects. So while some plants and animals may not be affected greatly by the acidity levels in the water, others are. For example, a frog may be able to live in high acidity, but if he feeds on the mayflies, which will be greatly affected, then the frog will have little chance of survival without his food source. What is acid deposition? Most of us know acid deposition as acid rain. Pollutants that mix with moisture in the air create acid in either a wet or dry form. These pollutants include sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides. According to the EPA, power plants burning coal and heavy oil produce over 2/3 of the annual sulfur dioxide emissions in the United States. The majority of nitrogen oxides, which is about 50%, comes from cars, buses, trucks, and other forms of transportation. About 40% of nitrogen oxide emissions are from power plants. The rest is emitted from various sources like industrial and commercial boilers. Before, we commonly know acid deposition in the form of acid rain, but it also comes in the forms of other wet, including acid snow, acid fog or mist, as well as dry conditions, including acid gas and acid dust. What causes acid deposition? Some causes are power plants, car emissions, and the burning of fossil fuels. The ecological impact. Problems include health problems among humans, but more commonly in the aquatic areas, these health problems are caused among many fish and insects. Hazy skies, which surround the power plants, filters out into the city, as well as the surrounding forests. Environmental problems, such as pollution and greenhouse gases being emitted. Property damage to statues and buildings, and as well as a decrease in biodiversity. So in addition to acid deposition harming oceans, lakes, and streams, it can also harm forests and man-made objects, such as statues and buildings. How is acid deposition studied? The Environmental Protection Agency studies and takes measurements of the acidity levels in our atmosphere. They take samples of water and the air, which they then measure the pH levels as well as the chemical compositions in these samples. They study the effects of the acid deposition and form preventative options. Prevention. The EPA instilled the Clean Air Act in 1990. This reduced emissions of sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide from power plants, which then in turn reduced health problems, and since 1980 has had a 41% reduction of emissions. Liming is another outlet. This is a process in which limestone, which occurs naturally in our on our Earth is dumped into rivers and streams in order to level out the pH balance and the acidity. This term is also called alkaline. This picture here is of the West Virginia's Laurel Creek, where you can see the limestone cascading down the river. So what can you do? You can turn off your lights, computers, and other appliances when you're not using them. Use energy-efficient appliances. Keep your thermostat set at 68 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter and 72 degrees in the summer. Better insulate your home. Carpool whenever possible or use public transportation. But better yet, walk or bicycle whenever you can. Buy vehicles with low nitrogen oxide emissions and properly maintain them. The best thing you can do is become educated about acid deposition as well as other environmental issues. Thank you for joining me today on a tour of acid deposition.